The night Ethan Brooks turned 41, Austin looked exactly the way success was supposed to feel. Warm lights spilling from restaurants, laughter floating through open doors, people dressed like they belonged somewhere. Ethan didn't. He stood on the sidewalk outside a well-known barbecue restaurant in downtown Austin, straightening the cuff of his tailored jacket for the third time in a row. The watch on his wrist cost more than most people's cars. His phone silent. No missed calls, no messages. No reminder from anyone that today mattered. Inside, the place was alive. Glass clinked. A birthday song erupted somewhere near the bar. The smell of smoked brisket and cornbread drifted out every time the door opened, mocking him with warmth he couldn't touch. "Good evening, sir," the hostess said politely when he stepped inside. "Reservation?" Ethan hesitated for half a second too long. "No." She tapped at the screen, already knowing the answer. "I'm so sorry. We're completely booked. The wait is about an hour and a half, maybe 2. 2 hours on a Friday night on his birthday. "That's fine," he lied automatically, the way he did in boardrooms and negotiations. "Thanks anyway." He turned to leave, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. He leaned against the brick wall near the entrance, pretending to check his phone while watching people walk past him in pairs and groups. Couples holding hands. Friends arguing about where to go next. A family with kids still laughing over something that had clearly happened in the car. Ethan had built a company from nothing. He'd signed deals that changed entire markets. He could close a room with a single sentence. But at 41, he couldn't find a single person to eat dinner with. He told himself he'd leave in 5 minutes, grab something to go back to his condo at the Domain. Eat alone, like always. Maybe pour a drink he didn't need. Then something stopped him. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was exhaustion. Or maybe it was the quiet, dangerous thought that if he left now, nothing would change. He stayed. That was when he saw them. A small table by the window, half hidden behind a pillar most people ignored. A woman in her mid-30s with her dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail. Across from her sat a boy, maybe 9 years old, swinging his legs under the chair. They were sharing one plate. Ethan noticed it instantly, not out of judgment, but because of the care involved. The woman cut the food into smaller pieces and slid them toward the boy before taking any for herself. The boy talked animatedly, hands moving, eyes bright. She listened like nothing else in the room existed, brushing his hair back with an absent, loving gesture. They didn't have much. That was obvious. But they had something Ethan hadn't felt in years: belonging. He looked away, embarrassed by the tightness in his chest. He had no right to stare, no right to want what they had. Still, when he glanced back, the woman was looking at him. Their eyes met. She didn't look away immediately. There was no pity in her expression, no curiosity, just recognition, like she saw the loneliness he'd been carrying without him having to explain it. The boy leaned toward her, whispered something. She hesitated. Then she lifted her hand. It wasn't a wave. It wasn't casual. It was an invitation. She nodded toward the empty chair at their table. For a moment, Ethan genuinely thought he was imagining it. He glanced behind him. No one else was there. The boy grinned and made a more enthusiastic motion with his hand, clearly aimed at him. Ethan's first instinct was to refuse, to protect himself from the awkwardness, from the questions, from the risk of feeling something and losing it 5 minutes later. But 5 minutes ago, he had been a man with nowhere to sit. Now someone was offering him a place. He walked toward them, slowly, like each step required permission. "Good evening," he said when he reached the table, his voice rougher than he expected. "Good evening," the woman replied warmly. "I hope this isn't too forward, but we noticed you were waiting. We have space. Please, join us." "I don't want to intrude," he said automatically. "You're not," the boy said firmly. "There's a chair. Chairs are meant to be used." The woman laughed softly. "I'm Rachel Dawson," she said, extending her hand, "and this is my son, Noah." "Ethan," he replied, shaking her hand. Her grip was steady, real. "Ethan Brooks." "Sit," Noah insisted, pointing to the chair like he was hosting a dinner party. Ethan sat. Up close, he noticed the details he'd missed from a distance. Rachel's clothes were clean but worn. Noah's sneakers were scuffed at the toes. Their plate held food meant for 2 people, not 3. A server approached. "Can I get you anything?" Ethan opened his mouth. Rachel spoke first. "Just a glass of water for him, please." The server nodded and left. Ethan felt the difference between their worlds settle heavily in his chest. He was used to choosing, to ordering without checking prices, to excess. Noah tilted his head, studying him. "Are you waiting for someone?" Rachel shot him a gentle warning look. "Noah." "It's okay," Ethan said quietly. "No. I came alone." Noah frowned, processing that. "On a Friday?" "Yes." Rachel lowered her gaze for a moment, then looked back up. "Well," she said softly, "I'm glad you didn't leave." Something in her voice made Ethan's throat tighten. They talked, slowly at first. Noah told him about selling homemade candy that afternoon, coconut, tamarind. "We sold everything," he said proudly. "That's why we're here." Ethan smiled genuinely this time. "That's impressive." Then Noah asked casually, "What are you celebrating?" Ethan hesitated. "It's my birthday," he said. "I'm 41. Noah's eyes widened. "Your birthday?" Rachel stared at him, understanding clicking into place. "And you were alone." Ethan shrugged. "I'm used to it." Noah shook his head hard. "That's not right. Birthdays are important." Rachel reached across the table and rested her hand lightly on Ethan's. "No one should be alone on their birthday." Ethan didn't trust himself to speak. What he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that while he sat there fighting emotion he hadn't felt in years, Noah was already planning something. And before the night was over, a single candle would undo everything Ethan thought he understood about wealth, pride, and what it truly meant to be seen. The server returned with Ethan's glass of water and placed it gently in front of him, as if sensing the quiet gravity at the table. The clink of glass against wood sounded louder than it should have. "So," Rachel said after a moment, easing the silence without forcing it, 41 is a good number. Old enough to know what you don't want anymore. Young enough to still change direction." Ethan gave a small, almost surprised smile. "You make it sound simple." "It isn't," she replied honestly, "but it's possible." Noah leaned forward, elbows on the table. "What do you do, Ethan?" He paused. Normally the answer rolled off his tongue with practiced ease. Titles, numbers, accomplishments. "I run a company," he said instead. "Tech." Noah nodded like that explained everything. "Is it fun?" Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it again. The truth rose faster than his instinct to polish it. "Sometimes. Mostly it's loud and busy." Rachel watched him closely, as if she'd heard the silence between his words. "Busy doesn't always mean full," she said quietly. Something shifted inside him. He took a sip of water just to give himself time. Noah suddenly slid off his chair. "I'll be right back," he announced, already halfway toward the restroom area. Rachel turned to watch him go, then exhaled softly. "I hope he didn't make you uncomfortable." "Not at all," Ethan said quickly. "He's refreshing." "He has that effect," she smiled. Then more seriously, "I'm really glad you stayed." "So am I," he admitted. They sat in a comfortable pause, the restaurant's noise fading into a distant hum. Ethan noticed how tired Rachel looked up close. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixed, the kind that lived in the shoulders, the eyes. "Can I ask you something?" he said carefully. She nodded. "You can ask." "The father?" He trailed off, immediately regretting it. Rachel didn't flinch. She looked out the window for a moment before answering. "He passed away 2 years ago. Work accident." "I'm sorry," Ethan said, meaning it deeply. "Thank you." She said it calmly, without bitterness. The first year was survival. The second year was learning how to breathe again. Ethan studied her, trying to understand how someone could speak about loss like that and still sit so steady. "How did you do it?" he asked. "Keep going." Rachel smiled, but there was no humor in it. "I didn't have a choice. Noah needed me to stand up, so I did. Even on days I felt like I was breaking." As if on cue, Noah returned, eyes shining with excitement he was clearly trying to contain. He climbed back into his chair, glancing toward the kitchen, then at his mother. Rachel narrowed her eyes playfully. "What are you up to?" Nothing, Noah said far too quickly. Ethan chuckled. That sounded suspicious. Noah grinned. You'll see. The conversation drifted. Noah talked about school, about a drawing he was proud of, about how his mom made the best candy in Austin. Rachel rolled her eyes affectionately, correcting his exaggerations while clearly enjoying them. Ethan laughed, really laughed. Not the polite, strategic laugh he used in meetings, but something unguarded. He couldn't remember the last time that had happened. Then the lights dimmed slightly near their table. Ethan noticed the server approaching, carrying a small plate. On it sat a simple cupcake, vanilla, one candle burning steadily at its center. For a second, Ethan didn't understand what he was seeing. The server placed it in front of him and smiled. Courtesy of your table. Ethan looked at Noah. The boy beamed, bouncing in his seat. I asked him earlier. I used my candy money. Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. Noah, you didn't have to. Yes, I did, Noah said seriously. You said no one should be alone on their birthday. Ethan felt his vision blur. He stared at the candle, at the small, stubborn flame, and something inside him cracked open. Noah, he said, voice shaking, that was very kind, but you shouldn't spend your money on me. Noah shook his head. It's okay. I wanted to. Rachel reached for Ethan's hand, squeezing it gently. This is our gift to you, she said. Please don't refuse it. He closed his eyes just for a second and let the emotion wash over him. No boardroom victory had ever felt like this. No check, no deal. Make a wish, Noah urged. It's important. Ethan didn't wish for success, or growth, or anything measurable. He wished he would never forget this feeling. He blew out the candle. Nearby tables clapped softly, strangers smiling at a moment they didn't fully understand, but felt nonetheless. Tears slipped down Ethan's face. He didn't bother wiping them away. Thank you, he managed. Noah hugged him without hesitation. Rachel watched them, eyes shining. When Ethan reached for his wallet a few minutes later, Rachel stopped him. No, she said gently but firmly. Please don't. I just want to help, he said. Tonight meant more to me than you know. I believe you, she replied. But this wasn't charity. This was sharing. He swallowed and nodded, understanding the boundary she was protecting. I respect that. Outside, the night air had cooled. Rachel mentioned the bus stop was a few blocks away. Let me drive you, Ethan said. It's late. Rachel hesitated, then nodded. All right, just tonight. The ride was quiet, peaceful. Noah dozed off in the back seat. Rachel looked out the window, then spoke softly. We almost didn't come tonight. Ethan glanced at her. Really? I was tired, she said. But something told me to go anyway. Ethan felt a strange certainty settle in his chest. Something told me to stay. She smiled, understanding more than she said. When they reached her small house in East Austin, Ethan didn't want the moment to end. Could I keep in touch? He asked carefully. Rachel studied him, then nodded. I think that would be nice. They exchanged numbers. Noah waved enthusiastically. Happy birthday again. Driving home, Ethan felt different, lighter. Like a door had opened somewhere he didn't know existed. And he didn't yet realize that this night was only the beginning of a life he never knew he was missing. Ethan didn't sleep much that night. Back in his condo at the Domain, everything looked the same as it always had. Clean lines, perfect order. Silence so complete it almost rang in his ears. He set his jacket down carefully, loosened his tie, and stood by the window looking out over Austin's lights. The city glittered with ambition, with movement, with lives intersecting below him. Yet all he could see was a small candle on a cupcake and a boy's serious face saying, "You shouldn't be alone on your birthday." He picked up his phone, stared at Rachel's number for a long moment, then typed a simple message. I got home safe. Thank you again for tonight. I don't think I'll ever forget it. The reply came a few minutes later. We're home too. Noah's already asleep, but he said to tell you happy birthday again. Tonight meant a lot to us too. Ethan smiled, a quiet warmth spreading through his chest. He set the phone down, knowing for the first time in years that someone else was ending their day thinking of him. The messages continued over the following days. At first they were light, small updates, Noah had a spelling test. Rachel sold out of candy again. Ethan complained, half-jokingly, about endless meetings that went nowhere. Then the conversations deepened. Rachel told him about the fear that sometimes woke her in the middle of the night, the worry that she wasn't doing enough, that one unexpected bill could undo everything she'd worked for. Ethan told her about the pressure of being responsible for hundreds of employees, about the loneliness of success that no one warned him about. One evening, Noah sent a voice message from Rachel's phone. "Hi, Ethan. I drew something for you at school today. Mom says I can show you when we see you again. When we see you again." Those words stayed with Ethan all night. 2 weeks later, on a quiet Saturday morning, Ethan stared at his phone longer than he cared to admit before typing, "Would you like to do something together tomorrow? You, Noah, and me. Nothing fancy, just time." The response came slower this time. "I'd like that. Noah would too. What did you have in mind?" They met at Zilker Park the next afternoon. Ethan arrived early, nervous in a way no investor pitch had ever made him. He'd changed shirts twice, finally settling on something simple. No suit, no watch that announced his net worth. Then he saw them, Rachel walking beside Noah, both dressed modestly, comfortably. Noah spotted Ethan and ran straight toward him, arms open. Ethan knelt instinctively and caught the boy in a hug, surprised by how natural it felt. Rachel reached them, smiling softly. "Hi. I'm really glad you came," Ethan said, and meant more than the words could hold. They walked through the park together, Noah darting ahead to look at ducks, leaves, anything that caught his attention. Ethan and Rachel followed more slowly, talking about nothing and everything. At one point, they sat on a bench while Noah played nearby. "That night at the restaurant," Ethan said quietly, "it changed something in me." Rachel turned to him, listening. "I spent my whole life chasing numbers," he continued, "thinking if I reached the next milestone, the next goal, I'd feel complete. But sitting at your table, sharing that moment, I realized I'd been measuring the wrong things." Rachel's eyes softened. "We didn't do anything special. You shared what little you had," he said, "without expecting anything back. That's rarer than money." Noah ran back, holding up a feather like it was treasure. "Look what I found," Rachel laughed. "You should keep it." As Noah ran off again, Ethan watched him, then looked back at Rachel. "You're doing an incredible job, ain't he?" She shook her head. "I'm just trying not to fail him." "From where I stand," Ethan said, "you're succeeding." They didn't define what was happening between them. They didn't need to. It grew quietly, steadily. Shared meals, homework at the kitchen table of the small house with the blue door, late-night conversations after Noah fell asleep. Ethan never offered money directly. Rachel never would have accepted it. Instead, he listened. He connected her with people who could help her expand her candy business. He found a scholarship program Noah qualified for, presenting it as an opportunity, not a rescue, and Rachel gave him something he hadn't known he was missing, a place where he could be just Ethan, no titles, no expectations, just presence. Months passed. 1 year later, Ethan stood in that same small house, now filled with voices and laughter. Streamers hung crookedly from the walls. Neighbors crowded around a long table extended with an extra board. The smell of home-cooked food filled the air. "Almost time," Noah announced for the 10th time, checking the clock. Rachel smiled at Ethan from across the room. "Ready?" He nodded, emotion already thick in his throat. This time, when the cake came out, it was larger. More candles, more people singing. Ethan closed his eyes and made the same wish he had made a year ago, that this feeling would last. Later, after the guests left and Noah fell asleep on the couch, Ethan and Rachel stood in the quiet kitchen washing dishes together. "This year," Ethan said softly, "saved me." Rachel looked at him. "You saved yourself. You just finally let someone in." He turned to her. "You and Noah are my family." She didn't argue. She stepped closer and rested her head against his chest. That night, lying beside them as Noah slept between them, Ethan understood the truth. Real wealth had never been about what he owned. It was about who waited for him at the table. "What did this ending make you feel? Be honest with yourself." Do you believe Ethan found what he was missing all along? Yes or no? If you enjoyed this story, comment 100 below. Tell me which country you are watching from. And if this story touched you, please share it with someone who might need it today.